This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest Short Shots. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me is Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
In this episode, we're going to be looking at some fan films. We're going to be kicking off with The Last Ronin. Then we have Legend, a Dragon Ball Tale. Next up is Knightmare Man or Bat, a Batman fan film. And then we have Star Wars XWing to finish off. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is The Last Ronin. The last standing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reminisces about his mission and whether or not he should continue. We've had sort of dark takes on, sort of more family franchises in the past, Rich, sort of like the Power Rangers, for example, is probably the prime example, where it's set sort of further in the future and they're grown up and, some of them have died and some of them turned evil and all this sort of stuff. That was a very good sort of setup. This is a tease, isn't it? I think this one, it's a great idea, I have to admit. And it does sort of fit in with that sort of dark universe kind of setting. But at the end of the day, this is a bit of a tease. It's only 5 minutes long. It's very well rendered. It looks great. But you're just kind of wishing we had some bit more oomph to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's intended as proof of concept or something, but it is, unlike that Power Rangers and stuff that we were talking about, this is based on a graphic novel that was published in 2020 by the original creator of the Turtles, Kevin Eastman, and his collaborators. So it's kind of an old man Logan, but with a Ninja Turtle. Not so much of a teenager anymore.
Yeah, certainly not a teenager.
But yeah, what is on display here is quite a tantalizing teaser. It's essentially a story of suicide, which is a bit disturbing. But it's kind of, but also kind of fits in with the sort of
that's how they've been
Asian
brought up,
sort
I
of
guess.
samurais and Ronin and ninjas and all that sort of stuff. So what we've got is some very good CGI accompanied by a voiceover. It's about 4 minutes long. Really interesting. Definitely got. If this was sort of this is coincidentally, I saw the comic book for this in Forbidden Planet in London. I think I was with you at the time. We were looking around Forbidden Planet and I saw it in there. I thought, that's interesting. And I took a photo of it and sent it to my friend whose turtle was mad. And then this was released within 1 or 2 weeks or something of that. It was quite coincidental. Because the book itself is not new. The book, say that's how it obviously would have taken him a long time to actually make this, but the book came out in around 20, or at least the original issues came out in 2020, and must have taken him the guy Magnus Edlund must have taken ages to produce, because the whole environment is so well rendered, with not just the character but the sort of the sewer home, the dwelling that he's got, and the sort of the tone and that is there, the sound effects of the dripping pipes and all that sort of stuff. It's a really interesting. So it's a finality. It's a final thing, but it's like, wow, what would a Turtles movie? We've seen a few Turtles movies actually coming out, animated films. There was one recently on Netflix, and there was one or two that actually got like physical releases. There was the tie-in with Batman and stuff they did, I think. And so it would be really interesting to see a feature adaptation of this particular story. I'm very curious about it, because I haven't revisited any Turtle stuff since I was a boy. So I'm really actually quite keen to see that kind of gritty take on it, sort of mature version, which I believe was always there in with the Turtles. That it was the Turtles
Yeah,
was
if you go
kind of
back to the original sort of Kevin
yeah.
Eastman stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I think they really made it quite juvenile, friendly for the TV cartoon. But if you in the original comic books, there was because Eastman had worked on, I think, like things like heavy metal and stuff. There was a sort of a darker edge to a lot of it. So yeah, I think this is really quite an impressive little taster.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on then. We don't score these, but we do recommend you check them out. There will be a link to this in the footnotes below. Our next film then is Legend: A Dragon Ball Tale. Given diplomatic orders by the Grand Council, Vegeta, now king of the Saiyans, sets out on an interstellar assassination mission. This, unfortunately, I think I drifted off in the middle of this, Rich. I'm not a fan of Dragon Ball at all, and I rapidly lost interest in the middle of this. I can see the love that went into this. I certainly respect the amount of effort and production values that they've gone for. But personally, I'm just not a fan of this. So, yeah. What do you make of it?
Well, I don't know. Dragon Ball's actually quite big even at the moment, because there's like a fortnight tie-in, and there's a feature film that's actually in cinemas at the moment. They're even playing it on 4DX screens and all that sort of thing. Which has quite surprised me, really. And you can see it dubbed or subtitled, and all this. There's all these options. So Dragon Ball is a big popular franchise that I've never watched. I haven't even seen the. If I'm right, they did make a Hollywood movie.
Yes.
With from that, and I haven't even seen that, so I don't really know any of it apart from a couple of the characters. And I'm not even a big fan of anime, but what I could see, watching this is, I mean, they've captured that anime look and feel and pace, as far as I can tell, it absolutely perfectly. The filmmaker Nasir Pasha and the I think they're called a Studio Stray Dog team that have worked on this. I mean, it plays exactly like I would think an anime would play.
Yeah.
It's got all those sort of visual traits and tropes, and the sort of roaring and the lights and the flashes and the thing, and I got lost. I got no idea what's going on. I could tell that basically it's characters are fighting, and but they were introducing so many different characters, and I was thinking, is that the same character and he's just sort of changed his identity and stuff? I don't know. I'm not a fan, but just the visual sort of sensory assault was just astounding. I thought it was really. I mean, it's 11 minutes. Well, it's about 9 or 10 minutes long plus some end credits. But wow, what a that's a long time in animation. How long that must have taken to put together. I was just thought it looked fabulous. It doesn't make me want to go and watch the show, but I've watched this twice and I don't regret spending that time. I just think it's really good. It really stands out against a lot of the other fan films that we look at. I think we've seen animated stuff before, and there's quite a few animated films and fan films as well. Yeah. But this one, I think more than most, really captures that sort of Japanese anime kind of look and feel, and relentless. I say it is like a more like an experience. So a bit overload of everything that's going on. It's very cool.
If you drop this in the middle of a run of Dragon Ball episodes, I wouldn't be able to pick this out from sort of the quality of the actual show itself.
It feels so authentic.
It does. It really does. I just wish I was the audience for it, but I'm not. There you go. That is Legend: A Dragon Ball Tale. If you're a fan, please check it out. You'll find a link. in the
Another thing I just
footnotes.
want to mention is that there's a note at the start of the film which goes to great pains to say they made everything. They didn't take in any elements, which does happen with fan films. Sometimes you'll have sound or music or bits and bobs that they've incorporated.
Yeah.
Here they built everything from the ground up. They just based it on the character designs. Obviously they've recreated and everything, but all the sound and stuff is so. And so I think the sound effects and all that is all really impressive as well. The whole package, that they did a really fantastic job.
Absolutely. So if you're a fan, please go check it out. You'll find a link in the footnotes below. Our next short film is Knightmare Man or Bat.
Yep.
In this film, the Caped Crusader is trying to investigate the disappearance of a bunch of scientists, the appearance of a giant creature who looks like a giant bat. Apart from one tiny element, I really like this. It plays with the usual sort of Batman tropes, but it presents it really well. And it's the first time in any film or series since the comics, and probably since the animated series, where we have Bruce Wayne in disguise. It's one of those sort of elements that you used to pick up quite a lot, but it's never been done in any of the films. This idea of him sort of taking on different personas to sort of going undercover and that sort of stuff. And I really like that. I like to play this character called Matches, sort of hustling people for pool and stuff like that. It was a great touch. We also get Jason Todd as a sort of very disgruntled Robin, although he doesn't actually play Robin in this one. We don't see him in costume, but he's got his own agenda, as we find out at the end. We'll come back to that. But I really like this. I've only got two little niggles, but I'll get onto those in a minute. How did you like this one?
Yeah, I think I did, and I think that what's good is we're seeing a lot of these Batman fan films get it. They're sort of forming series, and they get better each time. Now this is the third in a series, and I confess I haven't seen the originals, but it looks to me much in the same way as Bat in the Sun's films are getting more polished as they go along, with Dying is Easy being their latest one. Is that
why this is called Knightmare? Is that like the Knightmare trilogy or something?
Yeah, well, the first film was called Knightmare. The second one was called it was Nightmare, and then the caveat was the subtitle was Killing Joker. Right. So the emphasis was on Joker, and then this one is, say, focused on the man character. It's got the cinematography is really good. It does feel quite polished in places and stuff. The costume, the look and the costume of the character seems to draw from the Nolan version, as much of them do these days. But it's got its own look, own design. It's a blue costume, which is quite curious.
That's the only issue for me is the color sort of stands out a bit too much. But I like the design of it. It's like this sort of full body Kevlar kind of design, isn't it? You get the idea. It's like this sort of really sort of toughened material, but still quite flexible.
And he's got that sort of moving headgear bit. The Christian Bale Batman.
So that looked really good.
But one of the key things which sort of made this stand out for me was that I just thought the CGI that they brought in for the Man-Bat character was of a really, really decent standard.
It was very good,
especially when he's out flying across the city and stuff. I just thought that's what really made this stand out. That they've sort of gone that extra mile. That must have taken ages. Again, we've sort of talked about a lot about these films with the CGI, and we'll talk about even more. But that's a really solid piece of work there that is something that I haven't seen before in a Batman fan film or many other sort of superhero kind of fan films.
It was an interesting way to take it.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And aside from that, just the sort of the story is about 10 minutes long. the kind of investigative, voiceover kind of thing with Batman was pretty good. In the recent, because I know the investigation thing was a feature of the Matt Reeves Batman recently.
Yeah.
Did they add voiceover, or did they leave voice? I can't remember if
is.
Batman does voiceover in that.
This is one of the things I'm coming on to. This is the other sort of niggle I have. See, in the Robert Pattinson version of Batman, we have a very emo Bruce Wayne, and at the beginning and the end of the film, we get this sort of monologue basically of sort of this city is a curse, or all this sort of stuff. I am I'm trying to instill fear and all this. And then this one as well, we get this whole sort of like, Batman sort of waxing lyrical about Gotham and the city and stuff. And it's like, he sounds like a sort of teenage, teenage goth doing his poetry reading or something. It's that sort of thing. It's like, it's his dream journal kind of writing. And it's like, that's how it sort of comes across a bit. It's not how a real person speaks. It's someone who's like an aspiring poet, or trying to be incredibly pretentious about what they're up to. That's me, but I think it's sort of riffing on the the Robert Pattinson approach. But there you go. But other than that, I thought this was absolutely solid. Now,
did you see the
after
credits?
Of course I did, because I've been watching the credits and I sort of just having to look at the the bar at the bottom of the screen. I'm thinking, oh my god, there's ages left on. What's going on? And then of course we get this follow-on scene with the Red Hood. And it is brutal. It is seriously brutal. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's like the Punisher, isn't it?
It's like the Punisher, but that is the character of the Red Hood.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen the actual cartoon, the animated film?
I've seen the Batman under the Red Hood.
That's it.
Yeah, which was really good.
Yeah, it was. And that's what we basically have here. There is one very sort of weird niggle in this thing, because we overhear the TV. There's a newscaster on the TV who's interviewing Lex Luthor. And the newscaster says something like, it's been 110 days since the last sighting of the Batman.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, no, because we've just seen the Batman. And this is directly following on from that. At least it's the same bar. So,
it says 1 year later is exactly what it says, doesn't it? Yeah,
no, I missed that. I must have missed that bit.
Oh, it comes up on the screen 1 year later. But even that's
well, that makes sense, because I'm sort of watching the Red Hood do his stuff, and as you said, it is very much like the Punisher, and the fact that he uses one of the batarangs to kill somebody, sort of sticks it in the bar, and then sort of jams somebody's head into it.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking, if Batman's around, he's going to put 2 and 2 together and come up. He's not going to come up with 5. If he's he's going to know who it was who's doing all this. But if it was set 1 year later and Batman's not being around, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is intended as a lead into the next, because that's what it's funny, it's because this has its own credits and own title as well. It's like they took they had the first film and they've added another film on at the end. This is like a second 5-minute film, which is called A Tale of Two Robins. Yeah, because the Red Hood is.
And it is like it's like they went, oh, we still got this location for an extra day. Let's do something with that.
Well, they do, and they do a proper. It's a fight scene short essentially, and it's a pretty decent one with some like you say, some really sort of hard hitting violence. He's slicing people up and stuff. The Red Hood character is Jason Todd. Yeah. We saw him in the first bit, and he kind of parted ways. Sort of went off, and it seemed like he was just going off for a thing. But obviously, now they kind of painted it like, oh, we never saw him again or something. I don't know. I don't know quite how that fits. But still, it's an interesting return to the environment. The character has sort of taken on this different persona, and we're seeing some of the same characters we saw in the previous story, including the scientist, including the girl who the woman who I'm not
The
sure if she's
scientist.
supposed to be Harley Quinn or
Yeah.
something, but she's very much a sort of, she become in the first bit she's kind of introduced, and by the second story she's sort of ingrained herself with the sort of Joker gang, essentially. It seems she's gone through a sort of become more indoctrinated into it. I don't know what character, again, a lot of this stuff is really pulling from a lot of lore. It's like the Red Hood stuff, unless you know what's going on, and that's kind of where it sort of relies on the fans to fill in what's going on,
isn't it?
It is, yeah. Unless you know what's going on, you wouldn't necessarily get what's happening, and I think in some cases I was missing stuff, and you got like a nice little bit with Lex Luthor on the telly, being interviewed as president of the United States and all that sort of stuff, which I quite liked. And yeah, I think I'm not sure whether to take it as two separate films or whether to take it as one film with what seems like an end credits scene, but then seems to just go on for ages. And I was like, and then it turns out it's actually got its own title.
Yeah,
so
it's obviously now we're intrigued as to what happened sort of 6 months ago or whatever, when Batman disappeared.
Yeah, so I thought it was very solid. Both the whole package was really interesting. Brought up lots of interesting stuff. Well shot. Definitely interested to sort of go back and watch the first couple of films.
Yeah,
and I'm really interested and I'm really keen to see where it goes next.
I'm so glad we're getting stuff which isn't just sort of it's another version of the Joker sort of thing. That's one of the small things that let down, that sort of was a detriment, I should say, to the Batman, was they had to have a scene with someone who's obviously the Joker in it. It's like, you don't need it, just let it go. But no, obviously, how will people know it's a Batman film if there isn't a Joker in it? But there you go, that's me. So yes, I'm glad we're getting these shorts. I mean, like Broken Promises, the animated one we had a while ago, which focused on Two-Face and the ventriloquist. I think using the Man-Bat and having the technical skill to do the Man-Bat, this is brilliant. So yeah, there's a wealth of stories and lore that they can delve into. It doesn't always have to be, the same characters over and over again.
No, there's some other. I mean, there's a whole bunch of. I mean, there's some Red Hood fan films out there. One of which is called Red Hood: The Fallen. I can't remember whether I've seen it or not, but boy, the poster looks fantastic. If you just look up Red Hood fan films, the poster.
Well, funny enough, that's actually come up on my thing. Now that I've watched this one, that's the next thing that YouTube sort of like sort of lined up.
There's also a Nightwing short that I really want to see, which has got really a lot of really good stunt people involved. So I'm thinking that's going to have some good action in it and stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of these films out there, and we try and sort of pick out the best ones the best we can. But there's still there's so much more to explore. So if anybody finds something that is of an excellent standard that we haven't seen or mentioned, then please highlight it in the comments.
If you are a Batman fan, then you definitely need to check this out. I think it is very, very good. You may have issues with the costume; it might be a bit too bright, but other than that, I think this works really, really well. So check it out. It's in the footnotes below. Our final film tonight is Star Wars XWing. This is a short which follows two X-Wing pilots as they take part in a huge battle to liberate Coruscant. Wow, is basically all I can say to this, Rich. This
should be in a cinema, shouldn't it?
This should be in a cinema. I mean, without any sort of hyperbole, I watched Top Gun Maverick, and when I came out of that film, I had sea legs basically, from that whole sequence at the end. And I must admit, watching this, I got dizzy. I was seriously spinning in my chair watching the acrobatics going on with the, as
it's like a theme park ride, isn't it?
It was. You could, if you made this into 3D, and you could definitely pack a cinema like like a 4D screening or 4DX screening or whatever. Yeah, there are parts of this. There's a bit where the two fighters sort of dive towards the planet and they're sort of going between ships and everything, and it just looks amazing. You know, if it wasn't for one or two shots like within the cockpit, this and just a bit more polish to the whole sort of graphic side of things, people in Lucasfilm must be kicking themselves watching this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The human characters, when we see the human characters in what is an entirely computer generated short, they are the kind of weak link. But that it's a very, very minor thing. I mean, the complexity of the environment and the speed. I mean, this is really exhilarating stuff, and it does feel like, whether it's a scene from a movie or it's a bit like a cutscene from a video game, but it's more like sort of a theme park ride kind of experience, or which again is, like you say, like the 4DX kind of thing. Even without that, though, just watching it on your computer screen or on your TV screen, you will feel like you are, you're there and you're moving around, and you'll be in awe of the visual effects. I mean, there's a bit at the end where a big like Star Destroyer emerges from like it's been hidden underneath something. It breaks out, and it's just amazing. It's just so good. So good.
Yeah, it really does. The way it's shot actually reminded me of the film Carter that we covered a couple of weeks ago, the Korean film.
Oh yeah.
Because of the way the camera moves between, the characters in the cockpit to outside, and it sort of swings around. It sort of takes in, showing us other stuff that's going on. Watching it within Carter was horrible because that's no way to make a feature film. It's great for a sequence, but you cannot sustain it for like 2 hours. Basically, that would be horrific. But for the purposes of this, I think it works incredibly well. It's just mind-boggling how good it is.
Yeah, and it was made by a guy called Christopher Parks. It was actually inspired by one of the Star Wars video games. I forget which one. I think it was inspired by the video game and a couple of one or two other sources maybe. What I would say is there's another film which, kind of harkening back to what we were talking about with Dragon Ball earlier. There's another vessel themed film called the
TIE Fighter one, is it?
Yeah, so there's a TIE Fighter manga anime, TIE Fighter short, which is completely different to this, but would make a really interesting sort of double bill to show the sort of two very different sides of the animated fan film world of what people have been inspired by the Star Wars universe. And say the TIE Fighter films, it's kind of got that same kind of energy, but it's a very different thing. It's not got any dialogue or anything and stuff, and this is very much you're constantly in communication. You're hearing from the characters as they're talking to each other. You're being told what's going along, whereas the other one is more visually driven. But there are a couple of different. I mean, for me, I think I prefer this kind of style. I mean, this is the visual effects here are the match of anything in any of the current Disney Lucasfilm productions.
Yeah, it's just missing a bit of sheen, a bit of polish to it, but the camera work, that depth of fields that you get is absolutely amazing. It really is. If you sort of link this up to like a 4DX screening, and you've got the seat moving and stuff like that, it would be an amazing sequence.
And I think what's happening with a lot of these filmmakers using these some of these new CGI and animation tools and stuff is a lot of the stuff there is sort of being packaged to be able to achieve these kinds of things a lot more easily than they ever were before. There's all these Unreal engines and stuff like that people on Blender that people are becoming masters of, and just making these really impressive little films that are way beyond what anybody would ever expect anybody to be able to. I mean, a bit like what Gareth was it Edwards when he did Monsters, and he made that film basically in his, what they say, in his bedroom or whatever they say. But what the capabilities are with some of the software and stuff, if people can master it and they can get a hold of it quite easily. And like the cameras, people can get really, really good quality camera work from phones these days. If you know what you're doing, it's you get the lighting right and stuff. So and I think what we've seen here in this package of like four films here is just sort of a really interesting, diverse collection of films that have been made with a lot of passion and a lot of skill.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. If you're a Star Wars fan, you really, really need to see this. It is very, very good. Even if you're not, if you have a passing interest, this is just technically just one of the best things we've seen in a long time. So please check it out. It's in the footnotes below. And that is our roundup of shorts for the time being. So thanks, Rich, for curating these this week.
Thanks for taking the time.
Nah, not at all. Please check them out. They're definitely worth your time. I think altogether they come to about 40 minutes, the shorts this week. So yeah, you could fit these in your lunch hour. Other than that, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. This show also has its own Twitter page, and Rich likes to curate a new film every evening around about 8 o'clock. So please check that out too.
And I just want to give a special mention to Fan Film Friday. If you search the hashtag Fan Film Friday, you'll find loads of really high quality fan films that we post every Friday.
Awesome. Absolutely. So thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.